Hello YouTube, welcome back to Assetto Corsa, and today we're going to be taking a look at the 1969 or 1968 actually Porsche 908 LH. Yep, that's a 90, not a 91, which is a bit odd, but you know, that's because the 91s were still coming. It was, well, this was the last of the 90s. I think then came the 917 is the one that replaced this car. So yeah, so this car is the last of the 90s in the racing world. This is a, I think it's a flat 8. Yeah, I think it's a flat 8, air-cooled, mid-engined, twin overhead cam, fuel injected, 3-litre, 350 bhp machine. Now, finding specs for this was a little bit hard, because it just, I don't know, I just couldn't find the right specs for this thing, because I got a Spider version, I got a Coupe version, you know, there's just all these versions that have come around, but I couldn't seem to find the LH. So yeah, if the specs are a bit sketchy on this, that's why. So I know it's got 350 bhp at about 8,400 rpm, it redlines at about 9,000 rpm. I don't know whether I can give you the torque. Let me think. And by the way, this car was the car that was challenging the GT40s. The 907 was challenging GT40 as well. But then the 908 was challenging the GT40, but did lose in 1968 the championship to the GT40, which, you know, we know as such a wonderful car. Of course, this car was already, even at that point, it was getting ready to be replaced by the 917, which we haven't looked at yet, but we will be looking at, because that is in Assetto Corsa as well, I'm sure of it. But it was down to this. It was down to this car to, in 1969, go after the championship again, because the 917 was deemed to be, well, not good enough yet, not tested. It wasn't thoroughly tested, so we had that problem. Nevertheless, this 908, I'm calling it 918, that's not right. 908, which I do know I've geared wrong, because I should be going faster than this, because I think it could go up to 200 miles an hour, and I'm doing about 165, 166 miles per hour. But this 908 was set to, it was doing well, it was doing very well, but unfortunately this was disqualified from the Le Mans race in 1968, which was in September, oddly enough, instead of, I think normally it's in, well, now it's in May, isn't it, or June, and then I think it was always in June, except this year for some reason it was postponed to September. But yeah, let me see if there's any other information I can find out about this car. 600 kilos actually. It was quite a light car, and it's got 5 gears, rear wheel drive, so it's a good, you know, proper race car. Aluminium space frame and fiberglass to try and keep that weight down, which is really, really nice again. But like I said, I can't find too much more information about the car, which is a shame. Which is a definite shame, because, you know, it would have been nice to know more and more things about this car. What I do know though, is that this car was running really, really well in 1969 with the, I think it was in Belgium. So it won in Belgium. It was winning in, I think it was quite a few places it was winning. But again, there were some problems with this car, which is awkward for Porsche, but I suppose they were working on it. They were working on this car, and it was getting there. So we had, I think 52 of these cars? Yeah, I think it was 52 of these cars were built in 1969 for this, to win the World Championship. That's all they wanted to do. I think, what was it? I think it won in Monza. In fact, I think it came 1-2 in Monza. Did break down in Daytona, but there you go. That was, yeah, that was a bit of a shame. Nevertheless, they did like this car. Opponents, however, did not like this car because it was a bit crazy when they were trying to overtake it because of how the drivers had to drive. And that's where I can now move into Assetto Corsa and talk about what it's like in Assetto Corsa. Now, obviously, modeling and texturing looks really, really nice in this. In fact, it's a very authentic texture, very accurately reproduced. So it does look very nice, and I do like it. Inside looks very, very classic. In fact, it does have a bit of that GT40 style look as well. Obviously, it's the same era. Everything's written in German though, so I'll say I can't understand it, even though I can clearly understand it because I know what everything is. Sounds very nice. It does match. You know it's 8 cylinders, but it does have a different tone, a distinctly different tone to the 8 cylinders that you'd find in the GT40, which is obviously the other car we've got. But it still sounds like a growling Le Mans car, and that's really nice. I like the fact that it sounds like that. It sounds like a car that would take on the GT40, and I do think that had this not been, I think, disqualified in 1968 for misinterpretation of the rules, I think this car would have pushed the GT40 through. Would it have won? Maybe, maybe not. I mean, Ford were all over this, all over the show here in Le Mans. They were just the cream of the crop. But this could have possibly put the Ford under fire in 1968. Nevertheless, it didn't. So we can move on. And I think that's why this car is so underrated. I think because it never won the Le Mans. It's such a wonderful car, but it never won the Le Mans. Moving on from the sounds to the most important part as usual, which is the physics. The physics of this car do show why opponents were afraid of it. Aerodynamically, it's really poor. It's really, really poor, and I don't know why. It just it doesn't seem to do the trick aerodynamically. It's got the power, it's got the grip, it's got the mechanical grip. You can feel that mechanical grip. But when you start getting up to high speeds or going around corners, the aerodynamics just wash the car out. It's difficult. It is actually difficult to drive. On the brakes, you've got to be careful. I mean, I was missing apexes and all that. Obviously, first time driving this car, I didn't know what to expect. But you did have to be careful. You really did have to be careful on this car. It's not a bad car. It's not a bad car by any means. It's just very different. It is very, very different, and it did have the power to spin up its rear wheels out of slow corners. So sometimes counter steering is needed. As you can see, just ever so slight counter steering. But yeah, the aerodynamics is probably what let this car down, or what let this car down in Assetto Corsa. But it's really quite fun to drive. Overall, it's really quite fun to drive. Maybe not as poised or not as crazy to drive as a GT40. Maybe you don't get that same feeling of ultimate control. As you can see, there you go, I'm all over the place now. You maybe don't get that same feeling of ultimate control that you do in a GT40. But you definitely get that feel of mechanical grip, and you definitely get that feel of a classic car. That is a given. It feels like a classic car, and I think it's very, very authentically reproduced in Assetto Corsa. Even the crackles coming from the engine, the backfire as I run very wide, and so for that I've got to give this car, I think I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. Yeah, I think a 9 out of 10 is a fair score if the GT40 is a 10 out of 10. Thank you very much for watching. Please remember to hit the like button if you like this video. Subscribe to the channel for more videos on Assetto Corsa. Leave a comment in the comments box below letting me know what you think of this car. And if anyone does find better specs for this car, do let me know. Because, yeah, I'm struggling to find the specs for this car, so that's a bit annoying. Do also check out my Patreon scheme. Link to that is in the description box below. Your support would be massively appreciated. It will allow me to get into this more, do more videos, fund myself, improve my equipment and all that kind of stuff, which would be super great. And last but not least, might as well tell you what I'm reviewing next. It's going to be, if it is in Assetto Corsa, which I think it is, it's going to be the Porsche 917 LH. And as a matter of fact, before we end, I'm actually going to very quickly check if this is available in Assetto Corsa. I really hope it is. No, it's going to be the 917K. So there you go. I hope to see you guys then.